Hello and welcome to the second in my series of inspiring wisdom warrior women. And this woman I've admired for many years that I'd like to introduce you to today, Dr. Sylvia Earle. I've been following oceanographer, scientist, researcher, explorer, pioneer, visionary, Dr. Sylvia Earle for years through the pages of National Geographic magazine, where I thought of her as the Shark Lady. Let's see. I'd like to share that with you. Hang on a sec. All right. This is Sylvia's message for young people today. I tell kids who seem to be worried about the future, and they should be, not to despair, but rather to realize if you could choose a time to be around, choose now, because this is the first time that we know that we are changing the nature of the world. If you think of the ocean as the blue heart of the planet that keeps us alive, how much of your heart do you want to protect? Sylvia Earle is an activist in the best sense of that word, fighting through inspiration and actions to protect, to educate, to question, to lead, to have us truly care for the ocean as the source of our life on planet Earth that it is. Her motto, no water, no life, no blue, no green. Recently, I watched a Netflix special documentary called Mission Blue. It came out in 2014. Sylvia will be 88 years old this coming August. And her earliest memory, she talks about, of the ocean is when a wave knocked her down the New Jersey shore when she was 3 years old. She says, well, that got my attention. With her infectious laugh and indomitable spirit, she paved a path through the then male-only world of ocean explorers. Over decades, beginning in 1953, when she took her first scuba dive, she has literally watched the ocean go from a place of absolute abundance, teeming with life, to 50% of the coral reefs around the world dead. Fish stocks around the world depleted, gone. She knows this from her own personal experience and is doing all she can to wake us up to the dire potential consequences of this reality. Now, in this series on wisdom warrior women that I'm creating, my aim is to show how our two channels of energy, the radiant, action-oriented masculine and its partner, the deeply intuitive, magnetic feminine, how they operate inside each of us as partners. Just like a battery, they create a circuit, a polarity that's necessary for action to take place. And we're either working in harmony with these two channels of energy or not. And most of us are off kilter quite a lot of the time. But the women I'm choosing to focus on have a strong balance of both of these in a way that can be inspiring for us all. So I'd like to begin with just a few of Sylvia Earle's accomplishments to give you a tiny glimpse into her life. In 1953, Sylvia was one of the first people to use modern scuba diving gear. Up to then, they had those big helmets, and you had to be, with the tank, with the cord that went up to the ship and all that. So this was the first chance to be in the water unaided. It was glorious, she said. I could get acquainted with the fish and be free of any connection to the surface. Oh, it was like flying. In 1964, she was the only woman with 70 men on a ship in the Indian Ocean on an international exploratory diving mission. In 1970, she led the Tech-Type project, where 5 women scientists spent 2 weeks in the Virgin Islands living underwater in a submersible, doing diving while they were down there. In 1979, she was the first person to walk on the ocean floor, 381 meters down, in this robotic gym suit, looked like an astronaut suit, only she was in the ocean. In 1990, was appointed the first female chief scientist of NOAA, the American National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. In 1992, she started DOER Marine, Deep Ocean Exploration and Research, to build a submarine and pilot it solo 1,000 meters down. It was even a little deeper than that. In 1998, the National Geographic Society chose Sylvia to be their first explorer in residence, which she still is today. And in 2010, she founded Mission Blue to, quote, ignite public support for a global network of marine protected areas called Hope Spots. And at the time of the film, she said she was on the road giving talks about 300 days of the year. And said, I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing other than diving. Now, in these series that that I'm working on, my aim is to, as I said, show how these qualities of masculine energy and what that's all about in us, how they operate, how we can use them as women and couple them and partner them with our feminine. In Sylvia, I just kept seeing this beautiful balance of these wholehearted and feminine currently seemingly within her. And so that's what I'm going to focus on, is just share more about this incredible human being and point out these qualities. Certainly, as a scientist, a researcher, administrator, author, action taker, we can see that deep base of the masculine energy. Those are quite strong in her. But at the same time, it's the way she does what she does that we see her equally strong feminine energy, caring deeply about her world, following her intuition, birthing hope and inspiration in others, seeing the unseen and sharing that vision with us, respecting all of life and wanting to protect it. Now, this healthy, or what I call wholehearted masculine, gives us, men and women alike, its role is to give us this strong sense of self-esteem, of self-worth, of confidence. It's a feeling of, I'm okay, I can do that. There's no arrogance behind it. It's rather this clarity of direction and purpose. Growing up first in New Jersey, where she had freedom to roam the woods behind her home there, and then moving to Florida when she was 12, where the Gulf of Mexico became her playground, Sylvia was encouraged by her parents to believe she could do things, do whatever she wanted to do or felt pulled to do, no matter what. With an older and a younger brother, she was one of the boys. She asked, why shouldn't I use the capabilities that I had to do what my brothers could do, or what Jacques Cousteau did? Several times during the film, she says things like, it just never occurred to me that I couldn't do something because I'm a woman or a girl. There always seemed to be this inner authority in her that guided her and still guides her to this day. And when I quote her, it's from the entry that I watched on Mission Blue. She said, I suppose in today's terminology, I would be regarded as a geek. Sometimes people have a hard time figuring out what they want to do. I always wanted to be whatever it is that the scientists did. I just didn't know what to call it then. Unquote. As a girl, she became entranced with the idea of submarines from William Beebe's book, Half Mile Down, published in the 1930s. I never got to meet William Beebe, but I regard him as a soulmate. Pioneer, explorer, and visionary. To put Sylvia's life in a bit more context, the 1960s and 70s in America, but all over the world really, were all about discovery, change in so many levels of society, from exploring outer space to the deep ocean, to all the changes in society that we were in the midst of, from civil rights and women's movement to the sexual revolution, to changes in how we treated people with physical or mental disabilities. It was this grand uprising everywhere you turned. And Sylvia says, quote, as a young scientist, this spirit of exploration was all around and I wanted to be part of it. And then came this opportunity to go on the International Indian Ocean Expedition in 1964. The other side of the world on a boat would mean being away from home for 6 weeks. And my children were 4 and 2 at the time, Elizabeth and Richie. I had never been west of the Mississippi, never been out of the country before then. And now I was really going out of the country. The purpose of the expedition back in 1964 was to explore. What a concept. It was to document the nature of what lived in the ocean. No one had been to the Seychelles diving. No one had been to the Aldabra diving before. No one had been to a little island called Fungu Kizimkazi. It was really amazing. I think the biggest discovery that we made on the International Indian Ocean Expedition was the magnitude of how much we did not know. And so we see that masculine scientist explorer energy, as well as that feminine humility of me, just admitting we really had so much more to learn. It wasn't until after the Tektite 2 mission in 1970 that Sylvia really came on the public scene. Quote, I had already been diving a lot more than 1,000 hours. I'd published a number of things, and it didn't occur to me that women need not apply. Jim Miller, the head of the program, who had to make the final call of who joined, said, well, half the fish are female, half the dolphins, half the whales. Guess we could put up with a few women, unquote. Chosen as leader of the 5 all-woman crew living on a submersible underwater for 2 weeks, Sylvia said they got asked a lot of silly questions like, did you use a hairdryer or do you wear lipstick? But they used those silly questions to talk about how beautiful the ocean is and how vulnerable. Up to then, diving had been in little brief spurts, 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. But inside this submersible, they were totally cozy and dry. It was a home away from home. And then they could drop through a hole in the floor into the ocean that they were in. They were in the ocean. They dropped through into the water and they could be in the water with the creatures 10 to 12 hours a day. She said, I felt like a kid in a candy store, except everything was living. Quote, you're outside with the creatures and you just get to know them as individuals. You actually see this group of 5 angelfish always there every morning, and they have different attitudes, different personalities. That's, I think, what has given me a different perspective than most people probably have, not just about the ocean, but about the creatures who live there. I went into the Tektite project as an ivory tower scientist, not really in the public eye, but Tektite changed everything. I had to come out of my shell, unquote. And here we see this pivotal moment for her, that analytical, let me observe you from a distance scientist, yeah, the masculine without the feminine, even though, yes, I know the scientist in its curiosity and question and wonder has the feminine there, but you know what I'm saying. She becomes fully human by bringing in her feminine side, encountering fish as individual personalities. I feel like this is the potency of Sylvia's message to us. The preciousness and aliveness of everything is found through that union of understanding both those masculine qualities, that scientific analytical side, so that we can look at and solve the problems that we face, but also the feminine, caring for and love for all of life. Sylvia was also about challenging the system. In 1990, she was appointed the first female chief scientist of the American organization NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Jeremy Jackson from the Smithsonian Institution's Scripps Institution of Oceanography said, the thing that's impressive to me about Sylvia is that she's not afraid to point fingers and to say, you know what you're doing and it's wrong. A bold place to stand. It's very rare that you would have someone who is a great scientist who would also be a successful administrator of an organization like that, because you need to be able to kick political ass, have influence, and control that unruly bureaucracy of people who come from God knows how many administrations, who think they know the truth, and they're going to outlast you. So they're just going to stonewall you, unquote. Well, it was harder than she perhaps thought or hoped it would be. At first, she says she loved the opportunity to be the NOAA chief scientist and the things she could learn from inside the system. I had a chance to see things that have changed my perception of what's actually going on, unquote. And since that was 1990, that whole Gulf War thing had exploded, those huge oil spill in the Persian Gulf, she got to go there 9 different times during her 2 years and make recommendations on environmental damage. But she says she also went to only 1 meeting of the Fisheries Council and was never allowed to go again. She tells how, quote, a document came across my desk saying that in 20 years, the bluefin tuna population in the North Atlantic had declined by 90%. Well, I found that shocking. And so when I went to the fisheries meeting as chief scientist, I raised the issue of what are we doing to the tuna? Because if we're trying to exterminate them, we are doing a fabulous job. And we have to stop killing them. Well, That was not a popular view. She continued, I wasn't really permitted to speak about the things that I knew the most about. I never deliberately said anything as chief scientist that I didn't believe, but I was asked not to speak on occasions because they knew what I would say, unquote. Well, she resigned 2 years later so that she would be free to speak her mind as a private citizen. And this next little piece is about the out of balance shadow masculine as destroyer. And we know this part of the world through many countless examples. But one of the biggest problems of our times in relation to the ocean are these huge industrial fishing operations, taking, extracting, just sucking up everything in the ocean. So in the film, we watch Sylvia and there's somebody else in the small boat. They come off of a bigger one and they're putzing their way over to this huge industrial tanker type fish. These people are on that boat shouting, go away, go back, it's dangerous. And she slips over the side into the water with her camera to record what she saw. When she got back on the boat, she said, quote, you know, I've seen any number of charts and graphs and numbers on pages. I've seen a lot of photographs of industrial fishing operations, but to actually be in the water with the fish, it was surreal to see those little fish captured in a way that is unlike anything in the history of the planet until we came along. For a moment, I felt this piece of me was being ripped out of the ocean as well. Jeremy Jackson is saying, overfishing is an amazing phenomenon. Who would ever have thought that people would be able to fish so efficiently and so effectively and so strongly that we would reduce the stocks of these species that were present in the billions to the point of obliteration or near obliteration? But we have done it systematically with enormous success. We've done it to Atlantic tuna. We've done it to sharks. We've done it to cod. We've done it to halibut. We've done it to anchovies, to herring, to sardines. Between 1950 and 2014, 5% of Pacific bluefin tuna remain. 10% of sharks. 5% of North Atlantic cod. Ocean explorer James Cameron of the Titanic movie fame said, you know, Sylvia is kind of the Joan of Arc of the oceans. She's the one that's out in front, leading the charge and the fight to save the ocean. And she's made it her life's purpose, especially in these last couple of decades, to make sure everybody else understands what is going on and why it is important, unquote. Now, there's lots of ways to be an activist. And often we think of that as fighting against something, some wrong we hope to make right, using anger as the fuel. And what I see in Sylvia Earle is this beautiful ability to turn that around, to take the sadness, the anger, the fear, the despair, and call out hope instead. This is a true wisdom warrior woman to me. That marriage of that masculine action and yes, anger and fuel of let's do something with this, but to marry it with a feminine emotional heart. Sylvia's vision, she says, I can see in my mind's eye a different world. The world has changed enormously just in my lifetime. 60 years ago, when I began exploring the ocean, no one imagined that we could do anything to harm it. It seemed at that time to be a Sea of Eden. But now we are facing paradise lost. This is not a woe is me story. This is just the reality of what is happening. But it is also the reality we have a chance to fix things. We have this idea, we humans, that the ocean is so big, so vast, so resilient, it doesn't matter what we do to it. Our ignorance is really the biggest problem that we now face. We can now learn from the past and, as never before, do something about it before it is too late. With all that love and energy behind her, in 2010, Sylvia and a team of others created Mission Blue, a worldwide organization to, quote, ignite public support for a network of hope spots, marine protected areas that are large enough to restore the health of the ocean. In describing her idea behind it, she says, on the land, people have recognized places that are in good shape, but they're under threat as hotspots. Hotspots, she thought. I said, well, we need to do the same thing for the ocean, but why don't we call them hope spots? Because if we take action, recovery, or at least making them better than they otherwise would be, is cause for hope. You know, the hope spots can't be just pretty places. The hope spots have to be places where the potential is identified, as threats are identified, and some kind of concrete action is taken. The idea of protecting the ocean to bring back the fish is an idea whose time has come, and it is beginning to work all over the world. Unquote. A hope spot is a place that gives you cause for hope. It's a big chunk of the planet, or it can be relatively small, like the Cabo Pulmo in Mexico, where conscious efforts have shown that if you can make an investment with the people that live there as well, if you can care for a place, it can recover and be a symbol of hope. So every place, even the small ones, can make a difference, but we need to scale up. We need to think big. Now, since its founding, Mission Blue has built a network of 140 hope spots in 69 countries around the world, of about 58 million square kilometers of ocean. That, according to their website, so about 12% of the land mass is protected through things like national parks around the world. And that figures I just gave represent about 6% of the ocean being protected. But Mission Blue's current aim is 30% of the ocean protected by 2030 to really give a chance for these fish stocks and the coral and everything to become revive again. I want to leave you with these comments from Sylvia when she visited the Bali Green School in 2018. I really have hope of recovery. It's about compassion. It's about the ethic of respect for other creatures, other forms of life. But it's also about us. We need the rest of life on Earth. And now the rest of life on Earth needs us to take care of the whole living world as if our lives depend on it, because they do. This is our chance to make it right. We can make it right now. Of course, we need new ways to generate power and cope with poverty, war, disease, all those things, but nothing else will matter if we fail to protect the ocean. So this covered only a teeny, tiny bit of Sylvia Earle's life, her family life, her 3 children, her work, her awards, her accomplishments. I encourage you to check out missionblue.com for more information about what you can do to help protect our oceans. I hope you found her story as inspiring as I did. I'll leave more information and links for further information below. Please subscribe and sign up to my channel and add your comments. Tell me what you thought of this and give me your suggestions for wisdom warrior women that you would like to see me cover. Now, when I work with people one-on-one in my coaching program, this is what we do. We explore how to move from what I call being a truth hoarder, a reluctant leader, to stepping into your full authority as a wisdom warrior woman. If you want to know more about that, get in touch. You can go to my website at Linda Kahn, that's K-A-U-N, lindakahn.com, and sign up for my list. Get in touch. There's a contact link there. Join my circle. Follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being here today. Bye-bye for now.